Hello and welcome everyone back to Bortnik's YouTube channel. My name is James Talberg and I'm here again with my colleagues Ruslan Bortnik and Marina Cherenkova. Welcome, colleagues. Before we start, I just want to mention that that was an intense week. We had an unprecedented attack on Iran by Israel on the Iranian nuclear sites. Some high-rank officers were killed in the Iranian army and in the Iranian government. That's the first block. The second block is that is happening while we have protests against Trump in the United States, and the situation in Ukraine is going out of balance because Ukraine is not receiving enough ammunition and enough support as it used to be because the tension is spreading because of the situation in the Middle East. Let's try to break it down today, and not just situation by situation, but I think it's just the geopolitical global trend, the puzzle that is connected to each other. And let's try first to break it down separately and then collect it all in one puzzle. I propose we start with the situation in the Middle East just because this is the most epic news that we have received for the past week. What has happened there, Ruslan? I didn't see that coming. Did you see that coming? Because as always, there was messages from the United States and actions that they were taking out their diplomats out of the region. They were taking out the army officers' families. They were pulling them out. That kind of reminded me what has happened in Ukraine before the full-scale war has happened, where embassies and high officials were evacuated and drawn out of Ukraine. Did you see other messages or signs that could have signaled that Israel is actually going to strike Iran, and we will be today where we are, where we see a full-scale war or almost a full-scale war between Israel and Iran, and thankfully USA is not participating yet?
Hello, colleagues. Thank you, James, for invitation and this question. I think this evacuation of American embassies, of relatives of American politicians and militaries from the region is a very remarkable sign now for nowadays world to understand that something will change in this region or this country. And Ukraine and the Middle East were exact examples of it. So if you see some evacuation of American personnel somewhere else.
Follow the lead. Hop on a plane as well.
Yes, you be sure that this region or country will be destabilized. In general, we are witnessing the rebuilding of world order. World order is changing. This world order, which was made after the Second World War, is just broke in our eyes. So what does it mean? It means rising of a new geopolitical powers, global powers, and it means dividing the power in some very specific regions, very important regions, which now are between the big geopolitical powers, or Eastern Europe, or Middle East, or somewhere else in Africa, in Latin America. This region, very tiny, very non-stable regions, will be divided again, taking into account the new balance of power between geopolitical sides. Look at this Middle East situation. We see the same players there. China and Russia behind Iran, and the United States and West in general in the back of Israel. The same players like in Ukrainian situation. Balance between these players, between the teams of allies, is changing in different situations, in different interests. But the amount, the range of these players is the same almost everywhere, in every conflict, starting from Myanmar and in Iran nowadays. And I think in the Middle East now is the one-man question is resolving now. Who will be main in the Middle East? Will it be Israel or will it be Iran in this region? Who will be the leader of this region? Who will be the new geopolitical player, taking into account influence of this leader in world energy markets? We are talking about gas and fuel, which is taken out of this region, which is extremely important, not only for the United States, but also for Europe, for China. China, for example, is a main investor in Iran, which made 25 years agreement with Iranian politicians and agreement of on Iranian energy resources. Who will be main in this region? Israel or Iran, Israel or Arabian country, Israel or Turkey, Turkey. They are asking us to say another word. They are asking to say to 2K now, because Turkey in English word is some a big chicken, so it's this geopolitical question now are resolved in our days. All older mechanisms of resolving these issues like United Nations and so on is not working. Moreover, there is no one power in the world like it was 20 years before this situation, which could be rule this situation, which could put sides together, which could be a judge between them. There is no one. Even the United States is impossible to do to play this role for now. So it means we will see a lot of military and economical and political conflicts in the world in the next decades. And many regions, these tiny regions, border regions, will be divided, will be split between the main geopolitical powers again.
Marina, one of my favorite statements before Trump was elected was that he was always claiming, if I was the president, the war between Russia and Ukraine would never happen. Can we say now, if somebody else was the president, the war between Israel and Iran would never happen?
Oh, that is a very complicated question. And I would like to elaborate on something which Ruslan has mentioned earlier, the new order. What we are observing now are two main clubs, political countries. They are fighting against each other with a very clear purpose to identify who is going to be number one policeman in the world. So I do not believe that at this stage we can use subjunctive mood. If somebody could be a president of any country, everything what is going on now in the world would not exist. No, that is not the case. We are going through the absolutely natural historical cycle. And unfortunately, we are living during that period as well. But I just would like to elaborate a bit on internal US policy regarding Israel-Iran conflict. The far left Democrats in House, they were very vocal about Prime Minister of Israel. They were quite rude and very emotional about assessment of those poor civilians lost on both sides. But my main point is such, probably a bit insulting point. When you read texts, tweets, or narratives of current US representatives, political elite, it makes you sad because the narratives are too weak. Analytics is absolutely weak. And I ask myself a question, where are all those think tanks which were financed by decades? Where is the very good analytics for internal politicians to read and to start planning an exit strategy from everything what is going on now inside of Ukraine and what is going on in, let's say, community of those who try to implement foreign policy of the United States. The bottom line for me is I'm really astonished by a very poor level of knowledge, analytical skills, and ability to negotiate between different stakeholders. And I just don't know. I sincerely don't know what would be the next steps.
Marina, I still want to understand a little bit the situation between US and Israel in terms of how the attack on the Iranian nuclear sites was possible. I've heard a lot of speculation on both sides. One is that Israel lobby is so strong in US that they have pushed United States to allow them to go for whatever they wanted to go in Iran for. I've also heard that it's a complete cooperation between Israel and US, and they're playing out that game when US is US is the good guy, the good police officer, and Israel is the bad police officer, because they're kind of like jungling with that. Israel is striking, and then we have Marco Rubio coming up at a press conference and saying, well, you guys, if you want to continue, it's not us, don't strike US bases in the Middle East. We're ready to continue the negotiations. So like he's kind of playing the good guy, and he's like, well, I'm happy to continue the negotiations. We're not stopping anywhere. We can still take it back to a diplomatic route. So what really happened there? Was that Israel initiative that they have just forced on everybody in the US government because that's their will, that's what they have decided that's the right thing for them to do in terms of their national security? Or that was a strategically planned cooperation between both nations that we know have the strongest political and foreign policy ties? What do you think has happened there? Who stands behind what? And I'm asking that because if there is a plan, if there is a cooperation, will we see US at the end joining that operation against Iran together with Israel?
Oh, that's a very, very interesting question. May I be straightforward in order to save time of all of us and our subscribers and our friends? When we say that Ukraine is a proxy for collective West,
yeah,
right? Could we do the same, or at least to draw an analogy that Israel is a
with
proxy,
Israel,
right?
Yeah.
Right. Talking about Israel and US, do we have here in the United States a really strong, profound, and sophisticated Jewish lobby? Oh, yes. It is absolutely a basis. It's fundamental and foundational. But that is a win-win strategy. From my perspective, it is win-win. Israel wanted what it's wanted, and US just using situation. And that is very normal, absolutely usual behavior of the United States on the foreign arenas. Nothing new. From my perspective, that is absolutely classic behavior. However, whether that strategy is properly calculated and whether those steps are strategy, that's the huge question mark. I don't think that it is a strategy. Between Israel and Arab world, tensions have been all centuries,
always high,
right?
Yeah.
Yep. And we understand that how Israel is treated by collective West, that is sort of the fort or frontier of the Western civilization. But that is something which should be, I believe, if not deeply discussed, but at least started to being restructured, because that is not a very good position, neither for the civilians of Israel, not for the people who are suffering now because of that war.
Yeah.
Mutual
strikes.
It doesn't work. It's obvious it doesn't work. for centuries. Probably people who are the greatest, the beautiful mind in foreign policies all over the world, they should come up with some new strategy, because foreign strategy in that direction, which comes from the United States, is not extremely successful from my perspective. But financially, I'm absolutely sure it's going to be successful for United States.
Ruslan, Trump kind of praised Israeli operation in terms of its success, eliminating high-rank people in the Iranian military and the government, and how smart and wise and operationally successful that was. But he done exactly the opposite with the Ukrainian operation a couple of weeks ago, when Ukraine bombed Russian strategic aviation that could carry nuclear weapons. That makes me feel like Israel is part of the West and Ukraine is not accepted into the West, because in terms of the collateral damage that could have been caused to the world, it's quite similar. I mean, obviously, Russia has more nukes, and Russia has nukes in the first place, because we don't know if Iran has nukes or they have not, and they've been bombed successfully prior being built. But Iran can cause as much problems, if not more, as Russia to the world if they feel that they're threatened, and they were clearly just destroyed with all the Israeli operation that took place there and still continue. So my question is that the case? Ukraine is just not part of the West, at least from Trump's perspective, and Israel is, and there is a double standard between cheering one partner and saying, criticizing the other partner and saying, well, you guys haven't done what we expected you to do.
I think there is another reason. Ukrainian strike changed geopolitical security balance between United States and Russia. Israel
have not
the same. Israeli attack to Iran making a lot of problems. Of course, we are talking about energy markets. We are talking about the relations between United States and Arabic country in the region.
Arab countries, yeah.
We are talking about United States-Chinese relation, a lot of problems. But there is not a significant risk to a new world war, or there is no significant risk to for using a nuclear weapon in this situation. Ukrainian attack made this risk very bright in this situation. Moreover, it looks like Ukraine hasn't said about this attack, Trump's administration.
Maybe they haven't coordinated it.
Yes, maybe Ukraine was afraid that nowadays the White House could make a leak for a Russian in this situation. Ukraine is very suspicious towards Trump and his
makes sense
and his team, but Israeli operation looks very coordinated with the United States. United States is trying to be out of this situation, but United States strictly helping Israel to defend
its national security.
Yes, and moreover, this attack is strictly in the interest of United States if this attack will be successful. Of course, if there will not be success, this will make a lot of problems. A lot of problems. We have a quite different situation. And I think the Israeli situation in the region is more fragile than Ukrainian in the region, even in this situation, because the defeat of Israel in this war means for Israel just disappearing like a country, because Israel is surrounded by the enemies in this region. No one allied in this region. Only victory could help to save this country. For Ukraine, there is a very hard and very maybe unpolite even for Ukraine, but peace dialogue. And there is a strict demands from Russian Federation, which doesn't mean for United States elimination of the Ukraine. It means
as a state.
as a state. It means just cutting, rebuilding, and so on. But Ukraine will be in the future, even if Ukraine will accept all Russian demands. But United States is going on to trade, to negotiate these Russian demands during the negotiation process. So we have different situation. Of course, Israel is closer to United States, taking into account the Israeli lobby in the United States. Israel is more important because the presence of an existence of Israel making a deep influence on entire the region. United States has no any allies in this region at all. Ukraine is far away. United States has in Europe many allies, more stronger, more stable situation, and there is a Russian suggestions how to resolve this issue without cutting the core United States interests. So we have different situation.
Ruslan, something that I wanted to break down a long time ago. It's been on my mind for a while now. Let's see if I can put it out in a way that you can understand my perspective and my thought here. You've mentioned that Israel is more important for the United States than Ukraine because Israel is a trusted partner in the Middle East and potentially the only partner, even though United States have pretty good relationship with Saudi Arabia and they're trying to build diplomatic relationships with other Arabic countries. But let's say Israel is the only or the most trusted ally in the Middle East, and in Ukraine, from United States, Ukraine is not as important because in Europe and in Eastern Europe, United States have other partners, Poland, Lithuania, Latvia. They have the whole NATO structure. But what I'm trying to understand here, is it strictly technical situation that Israel became that trusted ally in the Middle East because of the importance of the region for the United States and for West in general because of all the energy resources? And Ukraine is technically less important because there are multiple partners and there is NATO and so on and so forth. Or there is something that we can point out that have made Israel as a nation more successful when it comes to defending their national interest and security than Ukraine. I think
you are willing to achieve a very deep answers in this.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand why Ukrainian elite, why Ukrainian government, why Ukraine as a nation is failing to do what Israel have successfully done.
Not only because of corruption, but also
it's a very wide question.
Yes, we have corruption in Israel also. We know it.
Of course, yeah.
Yes.
The previous prime minister had just left the jail a few months ago. He was sitting there for 10 years for corruption.
I think it's because of internal feeling of sovereignty. Israeli elites feel very sovereign towards its country. And what does it mean? For example, Ukrainian elites, all kids of Ukrainian elites, bank accounts of Ukrainian elites, main assets of Ukrainian elites are abroad, not in Ukraine. No one of the kids of Ukrainian elites is fighting on the battlefield now. So it's a different, absolutely different estimation from elites of your country, of your future in this country, leading to situation when these two countries are functioning in quite different way. Moreover, Ukraine has much better situation.
Technically.
Technically.
Yeah. They're less threatened.
Just imagine, just change Ukraine and Israel by places on the world map. I'm sure that Israel and Ukrainian place was extremely flourishing country. Yeah. One of the richest country in the world. Maybe the richest country.
If they will have the Ukrainian resources, if they will have the Ukrainian political position,
and Ukraine in the Israel place disappeared in a few months.
It's gone, maybe moments.
It is the quality of elites, I think.
So we can say that it's not just. Yes, sorry, Marina.
Sorry, just elaborate on Ruslan, but how can we, what should we do in order to help Ukrainian elite to gain a bit more values and high quality? What should be done by people, or how it could be constructed? What kind of environment we have to create as, I don't know, as people who do love Ukraine? What should we do?
We are not able, but I'm calling to people to don't vote for people which main interest, life interest are abroad. Never, never. It means that this person will be served by, in the best way, in the best situation, will be served by its own interest. In the worst situation, will be served by internal foreign interest in your country. This is the main thing, and we also see the Israeli politics is very, very loud, very bright, very conflict. A lot of conflicts there in Israeli politics. It's not a bad. It's not. It's normal for some countries, for some nations, but the main problem of Ukrainians that they are still not recognizing, not really recognizing. Ukrainian is not really recognizing Ukraine as a country of their core interests. Unfortunately, they are like assignment. They are working in Ukraine like in assignment, in temporary phase to collect the money, to earn the reputation in the West, and to don't bring anyway for your country. And Western elites also, and Russia also, and every neighbors of Ukraine also very helped in this situation, very, very much. It helped, of course.
To create that environment.
Yeah, made this environment and it will be maybe, and Ukrainian people now are paying the bills for such a behavior of elites and paying the bills of unresponsible voting, unresponsible electing these elites.
Thank you.
We can practically say that the quality of elites determines the success or unsuccess of the country and its future. Because as you've mentioned, if Israeli elites would have the resources and the territory that Ukraine has and the human resources abilities that Ukraine does, they would have done a much better job, simply because of the will, of interest, abilities, and I guess their own internal values. But we went a little bit out of the podcast plan discussing the global news. I think we don't have a lot of time left, but I just want to finish with the last topic and break down that situation. Marina, there are protests specifically against Trump now that are planned, scheduled to be all over the United States, mostly on the Pacific line, south, east, and west. And we have now, we can basically call it a war in the Middle East, which makes the situation even more unstable. How much stability does Trump's administration have in this situation? Are they managing to keep everything under control, or that situation between the war and internal protests, and I can even say, quite frankly, unsuccessful foreign policy when it comes to tariff wars, will create a situation where Trump can be impeached or lose the election for Senate between the Democrats and the conservatives? I think it's in a year and a half from now.
Oh, thank you, James. I think that President Trump has a lot on his plate now, but he doesn't have a choice at all. He has to win. Otherwise, it's going to be, the chain of the bad circumstances and consequences, which would close the door to the future, not only for President Trump's team, MAGAs, so called
the trend in general as a whole.
Yeah, the trend is moreover, proligarchs are in the same car, in the same train, as we say. So I believe that is going to be quite tense next 6 months. And President Trump administration will do its best in order to mitigate and in order to hold everything in order and to try to put according to their vision, everything in place. However, about the protests, no kings, two coasts, as usual, were very, very active, right, and entertaining.
Yeah, it's always on a coastal line, yeah.
Yes, but nowadays, and I'm from Midwest, Midwest was engaged as well. Less definitely intense, but in Midwest, all those protests were based on the facts previously. There were some arrests of illegal immigrants in Midwest states, and that was basically foundational or basis for the protests in Midwest. There were not a lot of people in Midwest states, but they were loud. The majority of people were definitely linked to the immigrants issues, but here it's more or less manageable. However, if we will look at the situation and the landscape a bit from another perspective, it is complicated. It is very serious situation for President Trump's team and pro-oligarchs as well.
Colleagues, we need to wrap up, but final question for Ruslan. How do you think this whole situation between internal problems in the United States for the Trump administration, the war in the Middle East, how bad it will be for Ukraine in terms of losing its geopolitical attention, in terms of losing its financial and military support and aid, in terms of potentially Russia taking advantage while the attention is on the Middle East and, I don't know, using some hidden resources that they could have collected that time and strike certain areas or regions in Ukraine. How bad, what trends can we see now unpacking for Ukraine because of that geopolitical shift?
It makes the possibility of unbalanced agreement between Russia and Ukraine bigger.
Towards Russia.
Yeah, because you know that because of propaganda and many things, the majority of Ukrainians are evaluating Trump in a bad way. I saw a sociological survey which showed that more than 60% of Ukrainians doesn't like Trump. It was quite opposite in 3 months ago, for example.
Or before the election.
Because Ukraine is a part of a liberal world, is a part of a necklace of these liberal-oriented states,
yeah,
which are oriented on the democracy in the United States and which are still waiting the end of the Trump, which are waiting and helping for the Trump defeat. And from one side, of course, many in Ukraine are very glad because of these internal problems in the United States, for example, for Trump, these meetings against Trump. But from other hands, we are clear and understand that the Israeli situation is rising enormous amount of problem in the United States will lead Ukraine to the situation of fighting without Western support. At first stage, without United States support, and last week, United States Congress committee declined the ability to sell to Ukraine additional $300 million United States dollars. And at the second stage, without support from Europe also, because Europe is also supporting Ukraine, waiting of the ending of the policy of the Trump. But if it will be very known that this policy will not be changed, or in any case, United States will not be supporting Ukraine because of many internal and outside reasons. It means that Europe will also be stepping back of Ukraine more and more, because there will not be a reason for wasting resources for Ukraine. Europe will be preparing for their defense themselves in this situation. So it's very dangerous situation, and the continuation of this situation without United States supports, for example, for the next 6, 9, 12 months means huge losses for Ukraine in terms of people and in terms of land, of course, in this war.
Alex, thank you so much. That was great. And guys, if you like our work, please like, share, subscribe. That shows us that you appreciate the analysis and the comments that were coming up and the time and effort that we're putting in. If you have any questions, please let us know in the comments, and we will be back with more updates next week. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.